This week's podcast is brought to you by Tracy Food Pride. Tracy Food Pride is your one-stop grocery store. Whether it's a quick pickup for milk, or burgers for the grill, or even a full week's worth of meals, Tracy Food Pride has what you need. Grocery, frozen, produce, meat, and bakery, Tracy Food Pride has you covered. And don't forget Banana Wednesday. Tracy Food Pride, hometown shopping, exceptional service.
Welcome to another edition of the Headlight Hot Seat. My name is Pierre. I am your host. Today we are joined by Lyon County Environmental Administrator Roger Schroeder. Thank you for joining us, Roger.
Thanks so much for having me, Pierre.
Let's get to know Roger Schroeder. Start with your background and where you grew up and all that good stuff.
Well, sure. I grew up in Hutchinson, Minnesota, so not far from here. My sister and I, parents are great. They established a firm foundation in the faith for me, and after I forgot that in college and was reminded of how important it is in my life, I got back on track there. Got an environmental science degree from Bemidji State University, and then I did something I said I would never do. I went back to graduate school in 2007 and got a graduate degree in what they call pastoral administration. So it's a little bit theology, a little bit administration. And at that time in my life, I was working for the county and thought, well, if there isn't any room to advance in the county, then maybe I'll go be a chaplain.
You're kidding me.
No, I'm not. Yeah.
I've known you for a number of years, but I guess I really haven't known you. Well,
there's always a little more to each of us, isn't there? Yeah. So, but then the opportunity came up with a couple of resignations or retirements in the county. There was the opportunity for an environmental administrator, and what I found is that graduate degree was heavy on administration, which helped, but then also heavy on how to care for people and how to get the best out of your employees, how to interact with the community at large, and so it ended up, the knowledge I gained out of that graduate degree, I think, definitely helped me.
how much of a people person are you, and how much do you have to be in your position?
I'm very much a people person. Like everybody to be happy all the time. There's a lot of community interactions, but then also a lot of staff interactions. Our department has 13 employees in it at the landfill and parks, and there's always something happening in county work. So there's always a conversation to have.
You're a people pleaser, we say that, right?
Yes. Yep.
So let's talk about some of these people. I want to get into the relationship you have with county commissioners because you meet with them every meeting, right? I don't remember a meeting you weren't there that I've attended.
Yeah, it's quite often. Yep.
You go there a lot of times kind of asking for money or asking for a blessing to pursue a piece of equipment or something like that. What's it like working with the county commissioners? And they change a lot. There's a little bit of a revolving door with election cycles, but how important is that relationship to build with them, and how do you do it?
It's a critical relationship, and like any relationship, it takes time and being willing to be vulnerable with each other, but also being very good at communicating expectations. That's something that I think this county board has done very well from the start. From my start in this position 10 years ago, it was very clear after a few meetings what level of knowledge I was expected to bring to the conversation, so that we didn't have to, table the discussion and bring it back time and time again. And it was I think they were very gracious with me being a new administrator, and definitely reached out a lot to try to make me feel comfortable and educate me on the process as they see it through their eyes as commissioners.
Take time to be vulnerable. Explain that a little bit. Your vulnerability that you need to show, or are you talking from their perspective?
I think
give and take?
I think both ways. For example, something just as simple as being frustrated with each other. That we don't want to show that we're frustrated with somebody else, but it's okay to do that, and it's okay to express that. to a department head, to a commissioner, and it just helps you get past the issue and then get back to work and do the work of the people.
So I mentioned a little bit of turnover. There's always turnover on city councils, county boards, whatnot. How do you deal with that? And, even though you might know this person, man or woman who comes in to fill a seat, how do you deal with, okay, now I gotta convince this person, or I gotta really get to know this person and build yet another relationship?
I think with the county, we've been fortunate that there hasn't been massive turnover on any given year. So the remaining members have been able to convey a level of trust in the department heads and the administrator. So it's not like re-educating everybody. And sure, you want to extend the invitation to tour the landfill, tour the parks, get to know our department a little bit. And every one of the commissioners has done a good job of making the time that works for them to get to know that part of the county.
I don't want to get you in trouble, but do you ever leave a county meeting just rolling your eyes, shaking your head in a frustrated way? Like, really wish they would have not tabled this. I really wish they would have bought into what I'm trying to sell here. Has there ever been instances where you're just maybe a little frustrated, or mostly? I'm assuming mostly it's pretty positive because you explain to them what you need, why you need it, a lawnmower, a new dump truck, or whatever.
I think my approach has left me with little frustration in that regard because I'm coming to them I realize that they're the ones in control of the dollars, of the permissions, the whatever. And I don't want to come in there with my agenda. I want to come in there with what I think they want. That requires understanding what the regular rhythm is, our replacement schedule for equipment or opportunities for grants, so on. And if I come in there and say, and I've been told plenty of times to grant opportunities, to equipment, to whatever, but then I think they're very good about explaining their mindset of that.
Well, and that's a good point. When you talk about wants and needs, you're not going in there, oh, we really want this. You're going in there, I think we need this. This machine has lived its life. Too many miles on it, whatever. These requests aren't about like a bucket list of things Roger wants. This is needs, isn't it?
And most of that comes from what I see as my role as the administrator in trying to support my staff and give them the tools that they need to do their job efficiently and well. And so it might be a new piece of equipment that is something new to our complement of equipment, but it would make operations more efficient.
Can you explain, you say staff, you have 13 people working under you. What do they do? Are you talking about snowplow drivers and park, the cores of the world?
Yep.
And her husband at the park.
Yep.
What do these all entail?
So basically we have 3 branches in our department. We have the county parks that have 3 full-time employees. The landfill has 5 full-time employees. And then in our environmental HHW side, there's 5 full-time employees there also. So parks is pretty straightforward. What they do with maintaining Garvin, Twin Lakes parks and the bike trail from Marshall to Camden Park. Landfill, we have our garbage landfill, and then we operate a second landfill by Russell that just takes construction and demolition waste. And so their primary job is to manage the customers that come through the door and bury the garbage and take care of all the pumps and controls and systems that a complicated landfill runs. And then, and then with our HHW and recycling, we coordinate the recycling. We don't do the actual physical collection of the curbside recyclables or apartment buildings in Lyon County. We contract that out. But we have a full-time educator that troubleshoots and educates people on what should be recycled. Stephanie, yep. And then our household hazardous waste facility at the fairgrounds, we serve all Lyon County residents and actually an 11 county region with hazardous waste, paints, chemicals, cleaners, etc.
We're talking about a lot of dollars here when, and it blows my mind when people come in and they make these requests. This week's county board meeting, there was a request made for Lincoln Pipestone Rural Water, and these dollar amounts are so big. And not just with the county, but cities too, and even school boards. Give us a kind of a perspective of how much dollars we're talking about, how many dollars we're talking about when it comes to new equipment, maybe annually. This no specifics. I know you can't, but ballparking.
Sure.
What's the level of money we're talking about that is requested and is sought by you?
Sure. So it really varies. The landfill being more heavy equipment side, those are very big dollars. When we need to replace something that pushes or compacts garbage at the landfill, that's $350,000 plus. The parks, our equipment replacements are much smaller. A mower might be $25,000, or a new pickup truck we might inherit from the sheriff's department for $10,000. So quite a bit smaller dollars.
They're so big though. I mean, the general person out there, when you talk about a lawnmower is only $25,000. Well, the lawnmower I buy for my lawn or my yard is a couple $100.
That's a good point. It's all perspective, isn't it? Yeah. Yep.
But you need them. I mean, like I said, if we go back to the wants and needs, Governor Park, Twin Lakes Park, it is what it is aesthetically because of the equipment, not just the people. They're very important, of course, but that equipment you need. You're just talking about at this week's county board meeting about a mower and getting an attachment or something like that. And you were pleasantly surprised, I think, by that suggestion by Commissioner Anderson about maybe looking at another option. What's that process like? And after you're okay to get bids, where do you go from there?
Sure. So, the board quite often will have suggestions about, have you looked into this, asking questions. And there's been a couple of times where there's some very knowledgeable people on that board with a lot of different life experience, farming and business. Yes. And sometimes they're able to think about solutions that I haven't run across yet. So that's always helpful. I forgot what your other part of the question was.
Just
the process then.
Now,
Sure.
you
So,
okay, you get the blessing from the commissioners, they vote on it. Now what do you do?
Yep. Well, we always like to support Lyon County entities, so we'll make a request to the vendors of the different mowing equipment and just tell them what we're looking for. Here's the specifications, and ask for a proposal from them that I can bring back to the board. Board will review that and then ask if the dollars are there in the budget and make their recommendation.
How big is your budget for county parks or for environmental?
Yeah,
activities?
it's probably best to break out the landfill from that, because that's close to a $4 million budget in revenue. And it's all revenue is always a little bit higher than operating expenses, except for when we build a new cell at the landfill for disposal. Then the parks budget is quite a bit smaller, under 300,000. And of course, most of that is human resource.
Okay. Let's talk about the landfill a little bit. You mentioned to me earlier before we started this, no taxpayer dollars going to the landfill.
Correct.
How does that work? How do you make that happen? And I'm sure people listening will either be surprised, and if they are, pleasantly surprised that, because I didn't know that.
Yeah, so the landfills operate on what traditionally has been called a tipping fee. And the origin of that is the garbage trucks come in there and they tip their load off. And so it's
not a tip you give in a restaurant.
Right.
You give them $10.
Yeah,
that was weak humor.
So no, I liked it. So the tipping fee is based on ton. And the current rate at the landfill starting 2026 is $51 per ton of material, and it's paid by the garbage hauler or you and I, the resident, when we come out there and drop off our load. And that's what funds our operating revenue. I think it's also important to note that it's not just Lyon County residents that are paying this. We serve 8 total counties in the region. So from Laverne to Redwood Falls to Madison, there's many haulers and individuals that are paying for the operational costs at the landfill.
So let's give some context to this. They pay per ton. What is a typical truck? How many tons does a truck hold? Or can it hold?
6 to 10.
Okay.
Yeah, typically. Yep. And the landfill accepts about close to 60,000 tons of garbage per year from all 8 counties.
Okay. Where are these trucks coming from? All over, or
Yep.
you said you serve a wide?
Yeah, so if you include the counties along the South Dakota border from Rock County up to Lac-Qui-Parle County, and then Lyon, Redwood, and Renville.
So, stupid question alert. These counties don't have their own landfills?
Correct. Yeah.
None of them do.
No. Back in the early 80s to early 90s, it was revealed that the design standards for landfills were not protecting the environment. Rainwater falls on the landfill site, percolates through the garbage, and then that rainwater would end up into the groundwater, leaching contaminants. So I think it was the late 80s, Lyon County purchased the operation of the landfill and installed a liner system so that any rain that falls on top of the garbage disposal area, that water gets trapped in the liner before it can contaminate the groundwater. And that whole process in Minnesota, really nationwide, hundreds of thousands of landfills and dump sites closed and became more of a regional system.
So we have a monopoly on garbage.
We do, yes.
Lyon County.
Yes, we do.
Good for us. All right, let's get to the reason why we're here today. Let's talk Garvin Park. I grew up in Tracy and spent a lot of time in Garvin Park when I was a kid, sledding down the hill, the tubing hill, which unfortunately is no longer active. But it's still out there for kids who want to risk it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just don't get hurt.
Right.
Playground equipment down in the lower bowl. You know, like I said to you, we had a couple rusty swings. You go down there now, and if the kid version of me went down there and saw this, I would go crazy because it's so good and so beautiful. Talk a little bit about just the playing to the kids. You know, keeping that. You know, Tracy just got a new playground equipment in town, and I know how important it is. And Garvin Park is second to none around here for kids, right?
Yeah, thank you for saying that. The adult version of me goes crazy when I go down there and see the playground equipment, which
Jealous.
I know it, right. The main playground was installed, I think, about 2009. So that's been there for a while, replacing some of the older pieces.
It doesn't look old.
No,
It's what the lifespan of maybe 30 years or whatever, but it looks almost brand new.
it's in great shape. Yeah, yep. So it's a great day use spot for kids. And now that we have the enhanced picnic shelter down there, we see a lot of groups, church groups, scout groups, families coming in there and just spending the day. Yep.
Yeah, I think someone mentioned to me that there have been wedding receptions or wedding related events there too.
Yeah. Yep. So and I think it is. I think Garvin Park has always been a gem, kind of an undiscovered gem. Since we have Camden State Park, everybody thinks of that first of
And
the state
Chetek
parks.
Park,
And
too.
yes,
In Murray County, everyone flocks to the state parks.
Mm-hmm.
But I think Garvin Park adds more intimacy. How many campsites are there in Garvin Park?
there's 50.
There's 50.
Yep.
But when you get down in there, it doesn't seem like you're in this big park because it is intimate.
Mm-hmm.
It has a lot of different amenities. Can you talk a little bit about some of the new things we've added, not just this year, but over the last maybe decade or?
Sure. Yeah. So playgrounds have been improved. We're in the process of updating. We completed the updating of all of the bathrooms throughout the park. and are in process of updating the picnic shelters. The places where those facilities are located are the same as they always have been, even from back to when you were a kid. And I think what's nice about Garvin, you talked about the intimacy of it. It's not all, everything is not all just in one area. There's three different campgrounds and the sledding hill and hiking trails, and there's plenty of space to kind of claim your own. I think that I'm always intrigued by the number of people that I see at the main picnic or at the main playground, but then you'll see people, at a picnic table off somewhere reading a book or under one of the other picnic shelters and just kind of finding their own space. And with the disc golf course that we have out there now too, that's just brought another group of people that we previously hadn't seen there before. So it's the knowledge about Garvin Park is getting out.
And you don't want, this is going to sound weird, but how much do you want to get it out there? Because you want traffic nonstop throughout the spring and summer and fall, but part of me is like, let's just keep this to ourselves.
Yeah, and it's a struggle, and I hear that a lot from people that have grown up with the park and have known it for their whole lives, and it's hard to feel like you're taking something away from them, of taking that intimacy away. Part of the park's growth has been being designated as a regional destination, and that's allowed us to tap into grant dollars that were previously harder to get for these regional systems. So it's kind of a balance. I think one thing that is important to remember is that as with all of the parks around this area, the heavy use is on the weekend. If you go out there on a Wednesday afternoon, you almost have the park to yourself in a lot of spaces. So if you're craving that solitude, during the week is a great time to visit the park.
Well, and it's so beautiful out there too, with an abundance of trees. I know I had my daughter we took her senior photos out there.
Oh.
Tara had Brady's and Ben's just more recently. That's the place to go if you want cool, because you have bridges, you have the creek or the river, I'm sorry, and you have the background, the trees, and I don't know, it's gorgeous.
There's also some exploring that you can do. My wife and I just went on a hike out there a couple of weeks ago, and we went off trail and followed one of the tributaries that feed into the river. This time of year it's dry for the most part, and we just walked up the wash and ended up in a place of the park that I had never seen before. So yeah, happily lost.
You mentioned regional destination. How does one, is that the state that hands that down? Or?
There's a commission called the Greater Minnesota Parks and Trails Commission, and our Commissioner Anderson was one of the founding members of that committee that helped establish this legacy grant funding source. But the Greater Minnesota Parks and Trails Commission reviews applications from parks and trail systems, and they have a scoring mechanism, and they determine whether or not it meets their criteria for a regional designation. So Memorial Park in Granite Falls, Plum Creek in Walnut Grove, those are a couple examples of regional parks that are in our area.
I know grant writing is really a challenge for a lot of people. We have our own very good grant writer in Valquist here in Tracy. Is it, when you apply, do you have to meet these certain standards and criteria? It's got to be so big, or we got to have this many amenities. Is it tricky like a grant, or is it just kind of selling yourself on?
Like any grant writing, you have to know what their parameters are and decide whether or not you meet them. The applications that we've made have been very large for Garvin Park because we're talking about major upgrades to facilities like bathrooms and shelters. Twin Lakes Park, that was a more modest grant application, just a smaller picnic shelter and bathroom. So knowing what I'd say the commission itself reviews every application regardless of its size and bases it on the merits of the project and what that relates to ultimately the end users of the park.
But it's definitely a benefit if you are designated that, right? I mean, you can reap those benefits.
Yeah, so the Parks and Trails Commission, they will only accept applications from parks that have already been declared regionally significant. So, for example, the Camden Trail from Marshall to Camden State Park, we're in the process of seeking that regional designation so that we can make future applications for maybe a bathhouse or a stop in Lynn for water or bathroom or something like that.
So let's talk a little bit about the future of Garden Park. So much has been done, especially in the last couple of years, to transform that park that was already pretty nice to begin with. Any plans for the future? Where do you want to go from here?
We have 2 active grant applications that we're working on. Next summer, we'll be adding 4 camper cabins and a couple more picnic shelters to replace the existing shelters that are there and give them the same kind of look and feel as the new shelters that we've put in. And then an electrical upgrade is planned for both the lower and upper campground so that we can upgrade the service to allow for 50 amp outlets for campers. As you know, campers are getting more and more robust and more power requirement.
Yeah, and then technology and the campers and just everything that goes in. Camping isn't like it was 50 years ago. It's a tent. I mean,
Right.
I can imagine, it's kind of like an adapt or die type thing. You have to change with the changes, don't you?
I'm a tent camper and go to the Boundary Waters canoe area every year. And so this is not my style of camping, but we'd rather do what we can to get people outdoors and have an experience,
You almost have to.
especially the younger
Yeah.
folks. If we don't get our kids outdoors and have an experience, how do we expect them to make a decision in favor of natural environments when they become decision makers in the future?
You want them to leave with smiles on their faces. Oh my gosh, I didn't know about this. This was so cool. Instead of, oh, that was kind of boring. Because it's not easy to put those smiles on kids' faces these days, unless they're on their phone or on their screen, is it? I mean, you gotta have something to draw them in and then make sure when they leave, they're happy or satisfied at least.
Yeah.
And come back. It's a destination that you want people to come back to every year.
Yep, for sure.
Let's move over to Twin Lakes a little bit. We can't ignore Twin Lakes. What's going on at Twin Lakes Park?
Well, we're quite established right now. It's a small footprint, but of course the great draw there is the water resources. West Twin Lake being a non-motorized lake, one of the few in the state outside of the Boundary Waters, and then East Twin, great fishing in that. Of course, both of those are the big draw, and we're just trying as hard as we can to get those trees to grow to get a little more shade out there.
Well, they said the best tree to plant was the one you planted 30 years ago.
Right. Yeah. Yep.
So why non-motorized?
That was a designation about the time that the land came available for Twin Lakes Park, if not a little bit before. And we had a study done by SMSU environmental educators, and the diversity of plant life, aquatic plant life in Twin Lakes was something that they had not seen before. It wasn't really a highly used motorized lake anyway because the access wasn't all that great, which maybe helped. The study found that there's very few inputs into that lake. There's no ditch that runs through like Lake Marshall, south of the city of Marshall. So very clean water and very good plant life and diversity in there. And the commissioners at that time made a decision to try to keep that as pristine as possible for future generations. Yeah. Yep.
I don't know the timeline of how quickly a lake can deteriorate, but I mean, is there a time on that? Like, if you have motorized boats on there, is it going to be noticeable in 5 years, 10 years? And I'm glad we don't have to find out at Twin Lakes.
Right. There's more risk then too with the invasive species problems that we've had in our region. And the more boat traffic, people traffic that you have, the more chance you have at introducing those risks also.
We're going to introduce a new segment on the hot seat this week. It's called Best and Worst. And Roger is our guinea pig for this. So talk about best part of your job.
I get to use the skills and gifts that I've been given and try to do that for the benefit of others. Like we opened with, I'm a people person, and trying to do the will of the people, as corny as that sometimes sounds, coming from a public employee. I just feel like my style was made for public service, and the gifts that I have, I get to use every day in working with my staff and trying to make the facilities that we have run better, more efficient, and serve the people well.
And worst part of your job, if you want to divulge.
When I fall short of my own expectations is the worst.
How so?
If I don't think things through and make kind of a bold decision before it's well thought through, and then realize, oh shoot, I shouldn't have done that. Or if I come to a county board meeting, I don't have all the information that I think I should. If my ideas are half baked, I think that's the worst part, because what generally happens is somebody's let down by that. Somebody's disappointed about a decision that we made that is impactful on them.
I thought you were going to say sitting through a 2-hour county commissioner meeting.
I'm always entertained.
You were off the hot seat, Roger. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much, Per. Yeah, good job.
This week's podcast was brought to you by Tracy Food Pride. Tracy Food Pride is your one-stop grocery store. Whether it's a quick pickup for milk, burgers for the grill, or even a full week's worth of meals, Tracy Food Pride has what you need. Grocery, frozen, produce, meat, and bakery. Tracy Food Pride has you covered. And don't forget Banana Wednesday. Tracy Food Pride, hometown shopping, exceptional service.